Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Eddie Olivares. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for Hidalgo County Health and Human Services. I'm excited to be here today to talk about our planning and prevention efforts to help prevent Zika or other arboviral viruses and illnesses in our county. So one of the things that we did was technical difficulties. One of the things that we did is Judge Ramon Garcia and our Commissioners Court decided to have a workshop or a training. However, today there was another situation that the commissioners and the judge had to step away to that was unforeseen. But they like for me to welcome everyone and tell everyone that thank you for coming and participating. It's very important. The information we're going to have is extremely important because it's about preparation, it's about prevention, and it's about public health and safety in our community. And it's important that you take this information back to your community, back to your city managers, back to your city council, and let them know that all of us as a community are going to be working together to help prevent arboviral illness or mosquito-borne illness. So, but before I get into all the details, I like to go around and have everyone introduce themselves, see what city they're from, and what you do in the particular town or city that you're from, and we'll go from there. Can I pass the mic around?
Okay, this is on.
Yeah, we're going to pass it around. Here we go.
Starting where?
Hello. Good morning. This one. Here goes. Hello. Good morning. My name is Roy Rodriguez. I'm with the City of FAR.
Julio Vitias, City of FAR.
Good morning. I'm Rudy Garza, City of Alton.
Ramiro Ramirez, City of San Juan.
Filemon Valdez, City San Juan.
Arturo Garcia, City of Mercedes.
Good morning, all. Richard Ozuna, Chief of Police, there for the City of Sullivan City, farthest western part of Hidalgo County.
Western. Good morning. Cassandra Laharza with Precinct 1.
Good morning. I'm Randy Coronado with the City of Edinburgh.
Good morning. Joanne Munguia with the City of Mission Code Enforcement Health Inspector.
Alfredo Espinosa, City Progreso.
Joe Pedraza, City of Wesco Health Department.
Good morning. Josh Ramirez, City of McAllen, Director of Health.
I'm Saul Garcia, Director of Operations for Precinct 1.
And we have also with us here today some of our epidemiological team and county health department team. We have Ms. Nancy Trevino, who is our public health coordinator. We have Misty Palacios, our executive assistant and helping with all public relations. We have Sakshi Prui, she is one of our EPIs. We have Diana Trevino, one of our other EPIs, and Steve Hinojosa, who's our EPI as well and taking the lead in this project. So, and then there's we have some judge's office staff that's here. We have Chief Ricardo Saldaña, who's the emergency management coordinator. Ms. Erica Arena just walked in. She's also part of the staffers and for the judge's office. And we have Mari as well from the judge's office as well. Did I miss anyone? We have, of course, our video technology people here, and we're thankful to them. And Ms. Jackie Trevino, who is helping coordinate the recording of this. So we'll go ahead and go forward. I just want to start off with a very clear message. Zika and arboviral illness is here. It's here. Let me give you an example of how it's here and how we know it's here. It has been confirmed. Local cases in Brownsville have been confirmed. They had 6 local cases. We have traveler cases in Cameron County. We have traveler cases here. We have traveler cases here in Hidalgo County. We have traveler cases in Starr County. We have traveler cases in Willacy County. There's several cases in Reynosa. There's cases in Matamoros. There's cases in Díaz Ordaz. There's cases in Mier. There's cases in Rio Bravo. So when you look at the whole area along the border here in South Texas, there is confirmed cases. There is traveler cases. There is cases that we're currently investigating. So this thing that Zika is coming, guys, it's here already. So it's real important that everyone leave here with a clear understanding that Zika is part of our community already. It's part of our sister community across the border. It's very important. We had a presentation by the Secretary of Health's office from the state of Tamaulipas a few weeks ago. Mr. Ramirez and myself were part of that meeting, and they have identified several thousand cases of Zika in the country of Mexico. Several thousands of cases of Zika in the country of Mexico. Puerto Rico, which a lot of people vacation there, okay? Puerto Rico has 36,000 cases of Zika in Puerto Rico, okay? So for this thinking that, maybe mañana, no. It's here, okay? And I feel very confident, just statistically speaking, I feel very confident that we're going to see it really blossom in the weeks and months to come for the simple reason that we had a very warm winter. I mean, really, yesterday was 101 in McAllen. I mean, February, 101? Wow, I mean, that's amazing. We don't know what Mother Nature is bringing us when it comes to rain, tropical weather that we may get once hurricane season starts. All those things play a role in what's happening. We have thousands of people who travel to other countries. In fact, right now, CDC has the city of Brownsville on a yellow alert. So right now, one of the guidances that is there is that any pregnant woman or who travels to Brownsville frequently, maybe works there or goes to visit family there, that guidance requires that mommy be tested for Zika. The requirement also that we push forward to our local physicians is that if you're pregnant in your first trimester, you get tested. If you're pregnant in your second trimester, you get tested. Now, some people have come up to me and said, Mr. Olivares, why do we need to get tested if we find out our baby has complications, or maybe because Zika, in some cases, in rare cases, it may lead to birth defects. It may lead to microcephaly. But what we're discovering from Brazil, in the thousands of cases in Brazil, is that sometimes a baby's born very normal. The mommy's positive for Zika. The baby's born, for all practical purposes, normal. But over the next 12 months of the development of the baby, there starts to see signs of lack of development or maybe complications in the development of the child after the child is born. A few months ago, when we did this training back in the summer of last year, we didn't know that information. Back in February, the very first news release I did back in October of 2015, we did my first news release on Zika. We didn't know that information. We know a lot more now. So the concern for our mommies in our community, our pregnant mommies and our women who are planning to be pregnant or wanting to have family planning in place, is that there's a concern that we need to be constantly vigilant. Very important. The other thing is the sexual transmission of Zika is proven. It is there. The sexual transmission, there has been documentation and scientific proof already of men transmitting it to their female partners or their male partners. There's also transmission between women as well. For the longest time, we did not know about transmission in women. Now we do. That's been confirmed. So that can happen as well. So one of the things that's always very touchy is talking about encouraging pregnant mommies or partners to use condoms to help prevent any further complications. I have a question that comes to me all the time. Well, if I'm pregnant, why would I want to use a condom? Well, because if your partner is currently infected with Zika and you have relations, you still can transmit the Zika virus to the mother, and the mother is developing the baby. So there could be a chance of complications. Viruses are very nasty little things. They're very strong, and they have a way to survive. So I'm going to start off with any questions so far. I'm going to start off with a quick presentation, and then we're going to get into some community I'm not going to go through the whole training of Zika. Many of you already know it. You've seen it. We'll be open to questions on it. But what the key factor today, the mission of today's training, is that we must have a unified, collaborative front. All the cities and all the community partners need to be prepared to work together. None of us that I know of, and we've taken a total assessment of all the equipment, all the things that we have throughout Hidalgo County, except for maybe some of the larger cities like McAllen or Westaco or Edinburgh, and even them are maxed out. None of us are fully prepared to deal with the Zika outbreak in our community. It's going to take responding and helping each other out. And that was the wishes and the desire of Commissioner's Court and the judge, our emergency managers, working closely with all the emergency managers in all the different cities, that when this day comes, and it will come, when this day comes, we all need to prepare to help each other out and back each other up. Because this is for the health and well-being and the public safety of our community. So the message needs to be very clear. It needs to be very clear. It's here. It's here. We know it's in Brownsville, it's in Mexico, we got travelers. The whole mystery of it, is it going to happen to us? It's here. Don't even worry about that. What we got to do is stop. We got to start working and preventing the illness. Let me see, who do I point to for this? Oh, okay, there it goes. Okay. I think one of the main things is we have a vector control task force. Yesterday, some of you were there. How many were there yesterday at yesterday's meeting? Several of you. Okay. We had probably over 50 people there. We had over 50 licensed vector control, or the ones that handle the mosquito-borne spraying and adulticiding yesterday, for a certification training and a training that took place to make sure that they have the most current updates on how to set and calibrate the machines they have, how to buy the new products, what they need to do to make sure that we are up to date with everything. One of the concerns that Mr. Ramirez and I have been talking about, and I refer to Josh a lot, because Josh, actually, I'm the county health director, but I look at Josh because he's actually been part of a state response team for during the West Nile outbreak up north. Josh and the city of McAllen responded to assist Dallas. They've responded for other situations. Josh is considered one of the leading arboviral experts in this area, and I look to Josh for guidance. So he's one of the first I call. We call the state. We work together extremely well. So that's why I'm always referring to Josh, because I have to be very thankful to his leadership. And City of McAllen has done a wonderful job. But this task force met yesterday. We had people from Brooks County, Starr County, Hidalgo County. We had almost all our municipalities that have the capacity for mosquito spraying were there at the meeting yesterday. I mean, how did it go? Did you guys pick up a lot of information? Good. So it went well. We're looking at that. It's important that we have, since we did this training last year in the summer to this year, there's been a lot of movement. One of the biggest things we have now, we have a partnership with the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley. The University of Texas Rio Grande Valley just obtained a grant to develop the Gulf Coast Center of Excellence in arboviral illness. They actually received a lot of money to deal with mosquito-borne illnesses, assessing, trapping, all those things. They're partnered with Texas A&M, University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston, and University of Texas El Paso. We have them, and they're very active and involved with planning. We're looking at developing a unified database and center. Right now, we have many agencies trapping. We have the CDC's trapping. We have the universities trapping, A&M's trapping. But what we need to do is bring everybody together so we know exactly where all the traps are. What are the outcomes of the traps? Many of the cities have asked Mr. Olivares, we would like to have trapping to know what's going on in our community. That's what Josh and I, CDC, are working on getting all that coordinated. So that's going to be happening. Don't be surprised if we contact you and say, we're going to have to, do we have permission to put some traps up in your community, in some of your city parks, or some of your city property? We may actually be putting traps in some neighborhoods. And we're actually going to be knocking on some doors and asking some of the residents in the county, be it in the city or in the county, knocking on doors and asking permission, can we put a trap in your yard? And we're going to have somebody come and check it. And so that is going to happen. And it's actually already happening to some degree in McAllen. McAllen has been the pilot project. So that's working out well. And Josh, you want to talk about that a little bit and explain that? Or?
Thanks, Eddie. Good morning. Thank you, Eddie, for your kind words. Well, we've been fortunate enough that we have Dr. Estrada right now that's working with us. He's from CDC. And we obtained this project thanks to the help of Eddie, that he was able to successfully also help us push this partnership. And the whole goal is for us to start identifying what we have. I was referred to Dr. Hayes. He was one of my mentors when I was doing vector surveillance. He always used to tell me that, Josh, when you go hunting, you got to know what you're hunting for, right? Yeah. Same thing applies to mosquitoes. Before you start spraying, you got to know what you're going to trade for, which species, which is the time that it's more active. So those are the things that we're going to be looking for. Species of mosquitoes that we have, where are the areas that is more active, if there's any possible, maybe positive cases, we're going to be able to identify that early. And also, we want to test also for resistance, chemical resistance. We talked about it yesterday at the class, from the egg stages all the way to the adult mosquito stages. So we're going to be doing a lot of research on that aspect in the mosquito control. We're not going to go into the human aspect. We talked about that yesterday as well. That's a different category. But for us, it's concentrating primarily on the mosquito surveillance. Okay. Thank you, Eddie.
So what does that mean, the human aspect versus not the human aspect? It's interesting because there's a lot of federal funding that's come in to help on the research side. So the university does research. That research cannot be used to diagnose a person. It cannot be used to confirm a medical outbreak or some type of outbreak involving illness in a human. There's rules at the federal level in dealing with funding that can't happen. But what we're coordinating with the university is that if one of their traps comes out positive for Zika or other mosquito-borne illnesses, dengue, chikungunya, West Nile, in case of Culex mosquitoes, they'll say, just want to let you know, we went to location X, we found this, and this is where we're at, just letting you know. Well, that red flag for us, and then we mobilize, we work with the cities and mobilize, and then all of a sudden we will focus highly in that area from a clinical perspective and an environmental perspective. So it's there's a way to do it, but it's not a direct path because there's certain rules. So it's real important. Let me see here. We also have emergency management. Chief Saldaña is working very closely with all the cities and the different emergency managers in the cities, and he's ramping up activity because we're in that type of season. We're in the spring, rainy season's coming, all this activity. So Chief Saldaña is coordinating with that. We have state and local partners, the Department of State Health Services, the CDC, we have the university, we have all our cities. So there's a lot of discussion. I feel very confident, and thanks to the Hidalgo County Health and Human Service team, thanks to Commissioner's Court, there's been a lot of discussion about Zika. I feel that we've given a lot of information out. I mean, we're always talking about it on the news or in the newspaper. Follow us on Twitter. In fact, I tweeted some things this morning. Not every day, but almost every day, I tweet out information on different health issues, and a lot of it is involving Zika, so it's very important. The other thing is our CDC initiative. There's two major CDC initiatives. The country of Mexico has several thousand cases, upwards of 7,000, okay? And that number is growing. One of the things that Mexico has done, they have developed a very broad trapping system to assess the mosquitoes. They have asked Hidalgo County, City of McAllen, and then we're going to be looking at other areas with permission from the cities or permission from the homeowners, that we're going to be doing that trapping as well, but they're going to basically mirror what they did in Mexico and doing it here, and we're going to do a comparison study. Now, some people say, well, that's research. We want to know. I said, well, but research will yield information that's important, and then we will turn that around and bring it back to the cities and coordinate efforts to prevent illness in our community. So it's very important that we work together. So we're mimicking that program in Reynosa, and the CDC folks are here helping us with that. Also, the university, we have worked on this binational program. We have very clear communication. A lot of people say, well, what's happening in Reynosa? What's happening in Mexico? What's happening in Matamoros? We communicate very closely with our Mexican partners. There's an Office of Border Services at the state level. They're in contact every week. Every Monday, they put out a report. In fact, you could go to the website, to the World Health Organization website or the Pan American Health Organization website. Most of the times in Spanish, but you could go to that website, and it tells you all the numbers in Mexico. Every Monday by 3 o'clock, it's posted. So we monitor that as well. And they contact us, and they let us know, here's what's happening. Here's what we're seeing. Hidalgo County has, by the studies that done in the past, over 38 different species of mosquitoes. We've caught about 26 of those 38. But the things we're looking for, the mosquitoes we're looking for, are the Aedes aegypti and the Aedes albopicus. Those are the two that we're really looking for because they're the ones that have Zika, dengue, and chikungunya. Now, the thing is with Zika, dengue, and chikungunya, when you look at it at a microbiology level, when you look at it at a structure, they're almost identical. They're very, very hard to differentiate. Some very high-level testing needs to look at. But to let you know right now that I'm aware of, and Sock, Steve, can you help me? None of the mosquitoes we've tested have come back positive for Zika. Okay? So we've sent thousands of mosquitoes to the state. None of them have come back positive for Zika. But it doesn't mean that it's not here. It just means that the ones we caught in those areas may not be affected. But at the same time, it's a good news from a perspective of I would be super worried if we were started seeing a lot of Zika infected mosquitoes because it's more prominent than we know of. So if we could isolate an area, when the day comes that we are going to get a local case and we have a geographic area and we focus, laser tag that area, maybe we could contain it in that area. The Aedes aegypti, my understanding, and Mr. Pedraza and some of the others have been doing this for many years than I have, I understand that the Aedes aegypti really does not migrate that far. You're looking at maybe 500 yards, 1,000 yards at the most. Of course, it depends on wind, but they don't leave the area where they're at very far. They stay in that area. Not like some of the other mosquitoes that kind of go out a little bit further. So that's good news for us. The only thing with the Aedes aegypti, I need you to go back to your city, please, please, and I need your help to educate the public. Use your water bills, use door hangers. If you have local TV stations, use that. Get in contact with your churches, get in contact, because one of the things that's very important, the Aedes aegypti loves being indoors. It loves being indoors. And, yeah, yes, sir. Sure.
Education process. I know the City of FAR has a very good website and program that you all tweet out and you all put on there, vice versa. City of Mission, the same thing. Get with you those resources and push it out through your websites, through your TV networks. It's very important that goes out, okay? Get with your emergency management coordinator in your community, and he will help you push that out also, okay? There's people within your community that are very resourceful to get that out, okay? Edinburgh, get with your media people. It's important that you get that message out. The precincts get with our public information people. They'll get that message out. It's not just you guys. use the resources within your community to push that education message out.
Right, thank you, Chief. Because the most powerful tool we have is education. Education awareness. I'd like to call up Misty Palacios. Misty, can you come up and kind of go over, take a few minutes and go over the procedures and some of the things you've done with our community partners and some of the things that we need to look at and talk about?
Good morning, everybody. Mr. Palacios. I'm with the Dogger County Health Department, and I work within the outreach team and community relations. I've placed a packet in front of you, and in this packet, you're going to see some different outreach flyers and posters that we've been using to place up at our clinics and different areas where we can see high traffic. I've also included an emergency help card. This card is essential because we use this in different communities within Hidalgo County, and it allows residents to understand what precinct they live within, the boundaries, and who their commissioner is. I've also included, this is the emergency card. So it has contact numbers on the front, and it also includes a breakdown on the back, like I was saying. So if they have questions, they're able to call and contact their commissioner's office if they have any questions, especially health department. We're on there as well, and emergency management. I've also included, as Mr. Olivares was mentioning, the mail-out card, which is what we use currently. And this card can actually be utilized within your utility departments, and you can mail this out to your residents, and you can include, there's a section on the back where you can include your address. So it's already set up as a template for you. I created a Dropbox link. Yes, sir. That's where this slot is for on the template.
So you could actually reproduce this. You could explain how to get it. And if you want to put the city of Alton or the city of West Coast, city of McAllen, you can put your logo on that and push it out. So how do they get to that?
So what we've done is we've created what is called the Dropbox link. And the Dropbox account is free. And by adding your email to this sign-in sheet, and of course, trying to be consistent and sending it out to all the cities regardless. But we will send this Dropbox link out to you. And in this folder, you're able to open up the folder, and it actually includes multiple outreach templates on there. So that's already provided. And we also have posters, flyers. There's a couple of PSAs that you can use as well if you wanted to run commercials or if you wanted to push it out in any of your TV stations within your school districts also. And there's also informational guidance on just to include within your resource centers in your parks if needed.
Ms. Palacios, can you explain, I mean, I'm not an IT person. I don't understand technology. I rely on the younger generation to help me with all those fancy apps and everything. So could they talk to their IT people or maybe their school district to help them with that whole Dropbox thing? Is that something that could be done?
I've actually included instructions on the email that I'm going to be sending out. So
Yes, sir.
it's pretty self-explanatory. There's going to be 2 links. One link that's going to be provided, it will actually route you to the account, and your IT department can set this up for you if needed. But you can set up individual accounts that will allow you to access these folders. I've also included a link to the actual folder. So this page right here will help you identify what it's going to look like. And it's a simple instructional page. So it allows you just to, as a reminder of what's included in the packet and what we're providing and how all of these templates would work.
So I think one of the things, Ms. Palacios, would you give examples of some of the community organizations and the different partners we've worked over the last year that would highlight that maybe they could get in contact with the same people to maybe get some of them to support them as well?
Sure. We have different coalitions within Hidalgo County that we work with. Equal Voice Network being one of them. That actually has 15 different groups that come to a meeting monthly. And we also work with Proyecta Azteca, Lupa, Arise. That's just to give you some examples. Local churches, church groups that get together, there's a coalition that they have. They actually attend those meetings, and we give them updates on any type of research that's new, guidance for traveling, and also the new partners that are becoming involved in order to push out the outreach information. And a lot of times, I've also included our health information, which actually has the locations of our clinics. So if you have any residents that if anybody calls in and they need information about our Hidalgo County clinics, I've included a flyer in the packet as well to help you guide them with that.
It's in there. Okay, but I think, Ms. Velasco, from your experience of working with all these coalitions, say that a city or a community wanted to get some education or give maybe a town hall meeting or some kind of, what's the procedure? How would we help them with that?
We have a class that's called the Prevent and Educate class. It's a PE class. And what we've done is we've conducted trainings with our epidemiologist team, and we will send out an alert to your cities and school districts, and we've actually separated with the school districts and the city managers and mayors or whoever they'd like to send as a representative in their utility departments or environmental departments to come to this training to get the updates they need in order to help them understand if they would like to conduct a training class or if they would like for us to go to conduct a training or just an updated class for you all, we could do that. And we can arrange that if it's needed. Does anybody have any questions?
Ms. Palacios, Chief Saldana just brought up a good point that there's a new technology that the county has. It's called Everbridge. And Everbridge is electronic communication. It's kind of like you get texts, you get emails. It's something that the county just procured a few months ago. And it's primarily procured for county employees and for emergency response within the county. Chief Saldana is looking at pushing that out to a higher level and getting more participants on Everbridge. He just explained that over the next few days, we will start linking up the emergency managers or the designated emergency person for your city on Everbridge. And if there is any messages that we need to push out, we will push them out that way. That way your leader in your community would get that notification letting you know we got this happening, we got that happening. And that's going to be something that you need to bear with us. This is the first time we do it beyond the county, so there might be a few bugs the first time, no pun intended with the bug part. But, but the whole thing is that, again, we're trying, the ultimate thing is communication, is how we need to teach you that you could teach your community and empower them to get this done. The number one prevention is education and awareness. Education and awareness. So in your door hangers, and the city of FAR did some great stuff. I got a compliment on the city of FAR. They've been working it for about a year already. They came up with some really inexpensive things, really nifty ideas. They use a lot of social media. Really, you think about it. The younger generation, everyone's got, smartphones. You can walk anywhere and everyone's like this, okay? So I'm finding out that this is the fastest way to educate people. So we're pushing a lot of things out in English and Spanish. Now, what have you seen as far as, let's talk about the importance of window screens. Can you talk a little bit about that and what we're doing with some of our partners?
We have been pushing the message on the preventative side to understand what needs to be maintained within their homes. You'll also find a sheet on there that talks about breeding grounds, and it's typical breeding grounds. It's going to have information on this one right here, information on basic breeding grounds for mosquitoes that people generally will take for granted and don't realize that this mosquito is an indoor mosquito as well as outdoors. So they're around clean water. Doesn't have to be dingy water.
No.
So we like to educate on that aspect to help residents understand that they could be living inside their homes in flower pots as well as outside.
You know what's funny is that last night I was at home, right, and I'm on the phone with various, different things, and I'm on the phone, right, and I'm like, there's this mosquito, and I'm like watching it. It's like, oh my God, it's like all of a sudden you become so aware of them that you didn't pay attention. And a little sidebar that Ms. Chapa and I always laugh about this one. Okay, if you hear the mosquito buzzing, that's a male mosquito. It doesn't mess with you. Okay, kill him. But if it's a female mosquito, doesn't make any noise, you just get this thing, So it's very important that we look at that because the mosquitoes like being indoors. In the Aedes aegypti, if I was standing here and I had my pet dog with me or something, the Aedes aegypti would rather feed off a human than feed off another mammal. It prefers human blood. So it's very important that this thing is pretty smart. Anything else on community, Ms. Palacios?
The other thing we like to educate on is the importance of the types of repellents that are available. We educate on going to the website epa.gov to understand if there's any allergens. Then it's very important for nursing staff to know that. And we do educate on that. EPI team has been great about talking about those and guidelines and age groups as well of DEET, and that's important. So the three main websites that you all need to remember are epa.gov, texaszika.org, and cdc.org. And those three I have included in your packet as well, so you'll see that. But if you need more information or if you need updates on travel guidance, cdc.gov provides that. They do change often, so just make sure to keep that in mind. If you ever need to go to that site as a reference, that's a great one. TexasZika.org is really good about providing outreach information too. So they're constantly updating flyers and posters if you need extras. A lot of this information you see in the packet was downloaded from cdc.gov and texaszika.org.
Any questions for Ms. Palacios? Any questions? We had some gentlemen and ladies walk in. Since then, just real quick introductions. Mike, sir?
Good morning. I'm Juan Cedillo, City Manager of Sullivan City.
Well, anybody else?
These two guys over here.
Okay, good. They're all together. Go ahead.
Yeah, Bert Gonzalez, Precinct 1, Safety Coordinator.
Jaime Gonzalez, Vector Control, Yellow County Precinct 1.
Right. Well, welcome. Now, go
I'll
ahead.
include one more thing. I'm very happy that the precincts have been very supportive of this. This card right here was utilized within the sanitation sites of the precincts, which has been a great help because those are high traffic areas. So if you can think of your most high traffic areas within your cities, that's a great help because you're able to distribute as residents come in for whatever service that you all are providing. They're able to get information at the same time. So that's a great way to utilize this outreach information.
Thank you, Ms. Palacios. Okay, so you will get an Everbridge account. They're going to be sending information to the emergency management coordinators for your cities or the designee for your city. If you don't have an emergency coordinator, Chief Saldana will work on that. We talked about texaszika.org. texaszika.org. All this material, everything you see here is there. You could download it, print it. You don't need permission. You could use it. We talked about cdc.gov or .org, and the same thing with CDC. Please, it's in English and Spanish. If you just YouTube Zika on YouTube, you'll have a bunch of videos in English and in Spanish. They're there to use for the public to use. Very important. So let's talk about what happens. We talked about media outreach. We talked about social media. We talked about community advocacy programs. But you all need to take the leadership role in your community. I need help. We need help. We cannot do this by ourselves. The city of Sullivan or the city of Westlaco, the city of San Juan, the city of Mission, city of McAllen, we cannot do it by ourselves. This is very, very big. And the sad part about this is here's what I'm worried about. What I'm worried about is that we have a Zika outbreak, which I know is going to happen. We have one. And then we have our first microcephaly baby born. And microcephaly can be caused by 25 or 30 different things. Not only Zika. It could be caused by drug addiction. It could be caused by other medical complications. It doesn't have to be Zika. But since Zika's already known to be here in South Texas along the U.S.-Mexico border, my big worry is the very first baby that's born with microcephaly It's going to be on the front page of the Monitor. You're going to have that baby, and you're going to have the city or the town where that baby's from, and they're going to say, what did you do? This is your fault because you didn't do anything. Even though we've been all working hard for the last year and a half on this thing, all right? But my concern is that we have to demonstrate to the public we're doing all within our capability to prevent that from happening. It's very, very important. I know that's kind of a graphic example, but it's important. So I would recommend for you all in your cities, and I know it's kind of late in the year, but you need to go back and look at your city budgets. You need to look at your equipment. You need to look at everything. You need to start thinking about, do I have my pumps working? Do my vector control pumps work? I'm guilty of it. I have 8 of them, and I check with my staff. Oh, Mr. O, they're working. Mr. O, they're working. No te preocupes, they're all working. And I went out there Friday last week personally. Préndemela. I want to see it work. Préndemela. I want to see it work. Well, pues le falta la batería. Well, you just told me that it was working, you know. Well, something happened between Friday and today. Okay, fine. So make sure they work. Test them. Work them. Okay? The Texas Department of Agriculture, right? Texas Department of Agriculture is the one that gets you licensed. We've helped Precinct 1 recently. We got some, I think you all went through the training. Did you all go? Was it difficult? No, it's not that hard. So I would encourage, and we'll help you get the Texas Department of Agriculture out to your community, or you could call them. Texas AgriLife, they're willing to help train and get your people licensed. Now, they're going to give you some tutoring and some examples of questions and things like that, but you're the one that's going to have to take the test, okay? And what's the fee on the test?
It's $100.
$100?
Yes.
Okay. And the license is good for like 3 years, and you have to get
5 years.
5 years.
You have to renew.
There you go. So so you need to get somebody in your city licensed, and let me explain why. So somebody comes back and says, well, why do I need a licensed person? I don't even have a machine. Well, let me tell you what we're going to do. We're going to do this. I don't know if we've got the power going on here. We have applied for funding to deal with this. Our team has come together, and we're going to use that slide in a second. Our team has come together, and we've submitted a proposal where we're going to look at a regional response. I've got together with Josh, Mr. Pedraza, I've gotten together with all the other folks, and the idea and concept was that you get a small community, Sullivan, Ranjeno, Monte Alto, one of those areas, and they don't have it in their budget to buy a $12,000 machine or a $10,000 machine. So hopefully we have been given an announcement that we have been awarded some money to buy equipment, but the check's in the mail type thing. You know, they haven't sent us a contract. They haven't sent us everything. And we submitted our funding request, and they came back and they decreased it by about 15%. And then we send it back, and they said, well, redo it. And we send it back, and we're just waiting for them to come back and tell us, yeah, okay. So we're waiting on that. And it's not only us, it's Cameron County, it's Webb County, other areas are working on that. The funding is not targeted to cities. It was targeted to health departments because the money is coming from the CDC, okay? So what we did in that program, we have actually, once we get that money, you know, the part that I'm worried about that everyone's going to get the money at the same time and everyone's going to want to buy equipment at the same time, and all of a sudden the manufacturers are not going to be able to get it done fast enough. But we're looking at buying additional foggers, and we're going to mount them on little flatbed trailers. So if you get a licensed person in your city and you don't have the equipment, we can check out a trailer to you. And it's not permanent. It's not forever. It would be, okay, for the next couple, because we got to rotate them with the other little communities. I don't have enough staff to go to all the communities. So we would check it out. You guys would spray. Now, you would be responsible for the fuel and for we'll give you the initial poison for it, but you need to start looking at your budget to start looking at the poison for that. And we'll tell you what it is. And it doesn't take a lot, especially in the smaller communities. We've helped smaller communities, and they don't need to buy 300, 400, 500 gallons, you know, they do well with Mosquito. But the thing is, we got to work as a team because I don't have enough licensed people. We all don't have enough licensed people. So even if your community doesn't have the equipment, get somebody licensed because that way, if they can respond, and then with their license, I think they could oversee a couple of folks, right, Josh? I think they could oversee a few. So if you have one licensed person in your community, maybe 2 or 3 other folks, you could rotate them, and that person will get on-time training and under the license of that one person. So I need the city managers and the cities to understand that. Please, even if you don't have the equipment, doesn't mean you don't get somebody licensed. And it's not that difficult. The gentleman was just explaining that it's not that difficult. Please get that done. And by having a licensed person, it also covers you for liability because you got somebody who is licensed by the state versus someone who is not licensed and then there's problems. You don't want to go there. Very important. Questions so far on that? Questions so far on that? So I can't see that far. My bifocals don't work. Okay. All right. So the number of cases, as you see, Texas has significant cases. Of course, Florida has cases. They all have cases. We all know it's here. So I'm not going to go into that as much anymore. I'm not going to beat that horse anymore. But the reality is, what are some of the limitations and concerns you have? I need you to tell me, what are you worried about? What are you worried about it from a budgetary point of view, from an operations point of view, from a manpower point of view, from a community education point of view? Let's have a dialogue because we could share information and you'd be surprised by us talking a little bit, we could actually get this thing going. Anybody want to start off? Before I pick on Josh.
Now, one of the things is that normally vector control, unfortunately, is one of those departments or divisions that normally gets picked on. Well, you're not going to be spraying for mosquitoes throughout the year, so we're going to cut your budget. And that's not true. In South Texas, we know that mosquitoes are active all year. I mean, we get, a couple of days only cold weather? Yeah. So most of the year they're active. So you need to put a stand and say, we really need to continue spraying. We really need to do surveillance because mosquitoes are not going to stop because it's December or because it's January. They're going to stop. They're not going to stop. You can have mosquitoes all year long. Right now, you still have mosquitoes. If you think you're not, go check your communities, ask the people around your neighborhoods. They're going to tell you, yes, we have mosquitoes. You might not have as much as normally when the hype season is, but you're going to have them. But the point is that we need to continue putting up a fight about not cutting the budget for vector control or mosquito control. Normally they ask a lot of communities if we go help out, it's because they get cut and then all of a sudden they have a problem and they say, well, can you help us? Yeah, we're glad to help. That's what we're here for. But a lot of times because their budget gets cut, and that's where the problems arise.
So Josh and I get called and said, hermano, préstame un galón de veneno porque no tengo, se me acabó, you know? Or, hey, my pump's down, or I need a hose, a clamp, or something. This is the year, and we talked about it last year in the meeting also. So this is not the first time you hear this. This is not the year to cut back on your vector control, okay? Because what would be really bad is if there was something in your community and they came to you and they said, pues las pompas no han jalado for the last 2 years because we couldn't get them fixed. Or because this or that. That's not good, all right? So we really need you to go back and look at that. Weedy lots, standing water. You all need to really look at mowing your grass and things like that. Mr. Pedraza, what is your experience and knowledge on what would you recommend?
My view is going to be what we release to the media once we do have confirmed cases. I know we had an issue with Channel 5 several months back that they released something and it wasn't true. That's one of my issues because that activates our commissioners and then that puts us in binds. So I know before we've had that you guys will take the lead on media releases, which I don't have an issue with. But I just want to make sure that whatever we do release, you give us a heads up as to when it's going to get released. That way I can prepare for it and I don't have the mayor calling me or somebody calling me telling me, well, Channel 5 is going to release this. That's my main thing as far as for Western. As far as equipment, stuff like that, we can pretty much hold our own. We have enough equipment to help out and even cities if need be. Precinct 1, we helped them out before. But yeah, that media release, that's one of my main concerns as far as routing up the people, because that's usually where the phones start ringing, and that starts causing problems for us.
Great question. And let me tell you, this is the rule of thumb that we use, and this is the direction from our commissioners and our county judge. If it happens in a city, for example, City of McAllen, City of Alton, that jurisdiction is the lead, okay? So say there's a big announcement or a big thing that needs to happen. We would work with that jurisdiction. We would provide the media support, the clinical support. We would provide whatever you want to help you deal with this issue. Your city would determine how we want to handle that. Now, there's been some times, and we work together, where a city would say, you know what, Mr. Olivares, I feel more comfortable if you go talk about it and you deal with it in the media. And I do. I will. There's other times where the city may say, will you stand next to us and answer any questions in case I don't know how to answer them? We will. My thing is, Hidalgo County Health and Human Services, Hidalgo County Emergency Management, and the County Commissioner's Court, the County Judge's Office, and our PIO office is ready to respond to assist any city in our county in any way that you find necessary. If you want us to take the lead, we'll take the lead. If you want us to step back, we'll step back. If you don't want us there at all, we won't be there at all. We're here to serve you, and we'll help you in any form of capacity with that. Okay? Very important. Other questions or comments, please? From experience. Yes, go ahead.
Just real quick, City of Alton, I wanted to go back in yesterday's training. The state is always up in the ante. And it's good training. As you were asking me how it went, very well. I'm a licensed from TDA for the vector control, and one of the things that I like, being lack of resources in the City of Alton, is can't send, because of the budgetary constraints, can't send everybody to trainings and what have you. So I like the fact that in yesterday's training they gave options, going back to the licensing, whereas you have a designee, or you have a licensed person in that city, but you can have these trainings, just go out there, get those, we have to get the CEUs, but that certificate will right there avoid any type of problems if they're not trained and what have you. So I like the options.
So from your experience, do you recommend cities that maybe they don't have the budget or the equipment, but at least get their staff trained? Is that something you would recommend?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's something that at least they get the training, while later on they'll get a licensed person, or maybe they'll get licensed themselves. But I think that was very important. And talking about the options, I like that they said a video. I think they had a video that they can go online and get this type of training, or I think they had another option they had. But I like that they have options.
So it's not real difficult to get the training?
No, not at all.
Yeah, and I think what he's referring to, it's, what he's referring to, it's a seasonal employee. What it is, it's a little green card, it's an EPA card that whoever's licensed with that jurisdiction, you can license temporary employees. Like our staff, we have 3 licensed personnel, but we have 2 temporary guys. So they have what it is they have a little green EPA card, pretty much stating that, there you go, that one. Yeah. Pretty much stating that you went through the training, and they can actually spray on by themselves, on their own, in the unit by themselves.
Right.
That's what he's referring to. But one thing I don't know is if they want the licensed personnel in the city, I think they might have, we might want to check with the state on that.
I would recommend get a license, at least one licensed person in your city, especially if you're a smaller city. Get one licensed person in your city. That way you're covered. If you're a larger city, well, you're going to get multiple people licensed, and that's important. But please get one person licensed. I'm looking at our dear friend over here. I gotta come over here to Chief Osuna, because he and I worked together in emergency operations many times in the past. From your experience, Chief, anything that you could think of that would be helpful now that you're in the role of being the police chief in a city, from your experience and knowledge, anything you would say, could talk about that would be helpful to the other cities that are here?
I think you nailed it pretty much. It's a cooperation between each and all, whether it be the emergency management coordinator, the city managers, public works director. It's actually everyone talking to each other and helping each other out, which at one time there was a lack of that. And now that we see it more often, everybody's communicating with each other, we'll tackle anything that comes our way. That's for sure. That's what I've seen.
All right. As a city manager, sir, anything that you could think of that you would recommend to other city managers or anything, or?
Inform the public via your website or other media sources as far as the need to stay educated and abreast of what's going on in regards to the Zika virus and so forth. We do have it on our website, by the way.
Great. Look, the city of Sullivan has it on their website. Sullivan City.
You know what? When we
Wow.
got our brand new city manager, he's already developed the website, and it's awesome. It's like from day to night.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it on one of my favorite sites, man. I'm going to go, that's great.
Are you
Great.
making fun, Mr. Olivares?
No, because I am like IT illiterate. I mean, I'm the type to go, Mija, how do you make this thing work, Mija? You know, my daughter's like, oh, Dad, come on. You're so 70s, Dad. You know, I mean, she tells me. Other questions, comments. This is the time to ask. As a city, important. Okay, so what's the key focus? What are we going to do? Let me see. I'm going to pick on you. So what city are you from?
City of Mercedes.
Okay, what are you going to do with the city of Mercedes? You get called by a local physician, or you get called by a local resident and says, man, my doctor just told me I have Zika. So what's the city going to do? What do you think? What are the steps you would look at?
Well, first of all, contact the city manager and
Right.
the mayor, and then after that, contact the health department, county, and then take it from there. Report it to the media, and assess that area around there, and of course call our neighbors, City of Westerville, to help us out, and work with each other, if we need poison or we need whatever we need.
Sure. Good.
I was going to ask that.
Good.
Start spraying all of a sudden?
Yeah, good. But the thing with spraying, we can't spray every day. Wind makes a difference. Rain makes a difference. And we don't want to spray every day because we don't want the mosquitoes to get resistant to the poison, and all of a sudden it doesn't work on them. That's what we're testing for, because we're concerned that there might be some areas that the poison, that we've used it for so long that, they've gotten used to it. But the main thing, you brought up an important point, and I'm glad you brought it up. The number one thing is, if you have in your city, you have a person who's identified with Zika, their information must be kept confidential. You cannot release the person's name. You cannot release the person's address. You cannot even más o menos vive allá, because you're subjecting yourself to liability. Okay? It's very, very, very important. I've had, with our traveler cases, we've had in Hidalgo County, I've had a traveler in McAllen, or a traveler, I think most of them in McAllen, maybe there's some in FAR, I think. But when I've talked to them and told them, well, they traveled to Puerto Rico for vacation, they came back from Puerto Rico and pues estaban enfermos, they got it over there. Well, the city manager or the mayor calls me, ¿Quién es? I can't tell you. What do you mean you can't tell me? I'm the mayor. No, I can't tell you. It violates HIPAA and it violates all kinds of rules. I won't tell nobody. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to say nothing. I'm like, no, I can't. In fact, my staff has actually gotten very good because they know I love to talk. I mean, yo soy una chicharra, So when there's cases that come up that are travelers, they don't tell me the name. They don't tell me the address. They just tell me the community, because they know me already. If they tell me the name or the address, no, man, don't worry about it. And I spill it, I'm in trouble. So they already know me well. They've trained me well that, no, Mr. O, we're not going to tell you because you'll be talking to somebody and you'll leak it out. So they don't tell me. And I don't ask them anymore. It's like, what town? Okay, that's all I want to know. Because in my excitement, in my desire to help, in my desire to participate and fix things, se me sale, and all of a sudden, I'm in serious trouble because the media will say, Olivares stated that, Eddie Olivares was the first case of yaya fever, in McAllen or in Mission. And that's going to be a problem. So that's why. So do not release the name, address, or don't even point. Don't do that. Okay? So what we would do, say there's a home identified. We would work, and we've done that already with travelers. Just for you to know, it's been done with travelers. McAllen had a couple of travelers. Again, they traveled to Puerto Rico on vacation, came back, they were ill. We looked at a quadrant. we would look at a quadrant, geographic quadrant around that area. Okay? Because in those traveler cases, we had to protect the mosquitoes that weren't sick. Because they were infectious, and if a mosquito bit them, that mosquito would become sick. And if it went about and bit somebody else on the street or something, that'd be a problem. So we actually had to protect the mosquitoes from the infected person. It was the other way around. Okay? So what Mr. Ramirez did and his team, they would look probably at about a 500-yard area in all directions, maybe 2 or 3 blocks in all directions, and just hit that area hard. Do a lot of education, a lot of awareness, maybe do some door hangers, do something, and that's how we would do it. Because we don't want to focus on that. Now, some people call back, and there's some smart folks. I had one person call me back, well, I heard about the traveler, and I see all this activity, and they are going the perimeter this far south, this far west, this far east, this far north, and so I'm assuming that the home is in the middle. So it's got to be in one of those 3 houses. And I'm like, no. It's like, no, you're lying to me. I know it is. And it's like, no, we're not that good about being like perfect. Okay? Trust me. We'll all work in that area.
Is there a set radius?
Yes. Yeah.
What is that number?
Right now we're looking at about 400 yards. What is it?
400 yards. It depends.
It depends on the vegetation and everything.
It depends on the area that you're looking at. If it's highly populated, then you narrow it down more into about 300.
And who set that radius?
CDC and the health department.
There's a CDC guidance that will help you, but also you got to look at the location you're going to be spraying. It's a residential, heavily populated. Is there a campus? There's a school district in that area. There's a lot of vegetation. There's parks. Depending on the location, then the applicator has to develop a plan based on that information that's provided on the CDC webpage.
Just a question, because everything goes back to, well, who regulates it, who guides it,
and then you have
what is the path that there's blah, blah,
correct.
blah.
Thank you. And you also have those areas where Eddie and I worked at, where my jurisdiction is only this 100 feet. The rest belongs to somebody else. So then we have to coordinate with other agencies.
So that's where it's important, where we have worked in the past, and I have to thank Mr. Pedraza, and I have to thank all the other partners in Alton has helped us a lot, where we are asking to push your limits out to the ETJs, okay? Now, I know that's hard, because usually you stay within your city limits.
Yeah.
But in times of need that we've had dengue and chick and other things, we've asked that you go back to your city council and your mayor as a city manager, if there is a situation we have, can we push it out to the ETJ? Because what we're trying to do, the county will work with the cities and coordinate to overlap. That way, your ETJ is out to here, the county's here, we'll work together and it overlaps. So we're able to be more effective with what we're doing. So we coordinate that with the various cities. A lot of you here, we've worked with you on that. We've worked with the precincts on that. So it's very important that we look at that. The other thing that Josh brought up that he made me think of is, let's say that they live here. Person, Eddie Olivares with Yaya disease, lives right here. But I live in an apartment complex that has 500 other people. You know, a 20 apartment complex, or a 30 apartment complex, a large one. What would happen there? Well, as you know, the Aedes aegypti is the one that lives indoors. So we would have to go do education with that owner and make sure that we get information out to them. The other thing that gets complicated, Chief, it's important. So say that you have Eddie got Yaya disease, and he lives at 1104 First Street. I'm the renter. I'm not the owner. Okay, so that brings up another level of situation. For us to do an investigation, well, we would go to Eddie Olivares, who got Yaya disease. But if we needed to do an environmental evaluation of the yard, actually walk around, trap some mosquitoes, maybe we're going to have to go in there and do some spraying in there, and we need to get permission, well, the renter could say, dale. But all of a sudden the owner comes back and says, hey, who told you to do it? I own this house. That becomes complicated. that becomes very complicated. So we're working with our DA's office for the county. We're working with our DA's office to help outline what are those rules, how does that work, how do you get a permission slip, what do you do if we have to go in that yard and do something. County cannot walk into a person's yard just to do it. We can't. So we're working with our legal. I'd recommend all of you go back to your city manager and your city councils and talk to your legal department. What are we going to do when we have our first Yaya case, our first Zika case, and we may have to go to the person's yard and use a backpack sprayer and spray that whole area to make sure that that whole quadrant is eliminated of mosquitoes. But do we have permission to go in there? It's not just about knocking on the door and saying, hey, with the city, we've got to come here. See, lo que pasa is that a lot of our immigrant residents in Mexico, it's a social medicine. It's government run. Doesn't matter if it's city, county, city, state, or federal. They can go in. In Mexico, it is done without permission. They'll just show up, hey, we're going to fumigate your house. And what? We're going to do it. So a lot of folks that are immigrants here, ¿por qué no viene la ciudad o el condado a fumigar? Why don't they come and fumigate? We're used to it like that in Mexico. It's not Mexico. There's all kinds of legal things we have to jump through. So that's something that we need to help educate the public, that we just don't go in. So you all need to go back to your legal counsel. We have examples, and we'll be happy to send them, examples of templates of permission slips and things like that. But you all need to talk to your legal counsel, because I guarantee you, when Eddie Olivares at 1104 First Street gets Yaya illness, the city, we're all going to have to look at working together. Because I'm already working with Josh and others, and working with us and others. We're going to have to go in there and really make sure that we exterminate everything we can. But it may involve getting into private property. That's a very difficult thing. You all need to prepare for it. You need to start thinking about it. You need to make sure your legal people know about it. Very, very important. Questions on that?
On that same note, pretty much, guys, all you need is pretty much a release of liability. We've had that issue of accessing property. Pretty much what it is, a tenant is, when the tenant has a contract with the landlord, technically that is their property. So they can't give you a right to go in there. And that, we did have a legal opinion on that from our legal, because we had some issues that we had to access property, take care of some issues. And pretty much that was our legal opinion we got, that tenant is responsible for their property if they're renting it, whether it's an apartment or it's a house, that includes the yard. Okay. So as long as you get a release of liability form that you can get from the city, have them sign off on it, you should be covered, but you still might want to check with your legal. But that was our stance, that's what we got from our legal, and that's how we go about it.
So it wasn't too difficult?
No, it wasn't too hard.
So see, please, that's Westlaco's procedure, but you need to have your procedure set up.
Yeah.
And like Mr. Pedraza is saying, it was not that difficult, but you need to pre-plan for it now. Very, very important. And because there's going to be people going to city council, people going to your, and saying, hey, ¿por qué no entran a mi casa? Éntrale. And I'll give you a story. Many years ago, I've been here 14 years. One of my first years, we had a situation where we were spraying for mosquitoes, and this person had all these, well, I'm not going to get into the detail, all these gallos, okay? And these chickens. Well, they died. So he comes back, and he says, well, you sprayed and my birds died. It's your fault. And this complaint came through as he saw a lot of legal issues. Well, the long and short, we had to get an autopsy on the chicken, which was interesting. The chickens ended up eating bad food, and they died from that. They didn't die from the spray. But, I mean, I know it sounds funny, but these are the legal things we got to think about that are the most basic things, and sometimes it become the most complicated things. So you need to pre-plan for this. Any other questions? I'm getting ready to finish up. Sakshi, Steve, Misty, Nancy, did I miss anything?
One more thing, Eddie. On Zika virus, that's reportable. So if a doctor gets a case, they have to report it, right?
They have to report it. Great. Good point.
I just want to confirm, because a lot of times we get that, I'll call you first, and you send me to your EPI people just to confirm.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Now, here's the thing. I cannot, when he calls me and he says, Eddie, I got information that we got so-and-so with Zika, and they live, and my people, all they're going to say
Yes or no?
Yes or no? We cannot confirm a name. We cannot confirm an address. We can, because again, we're breaking HIPAA. So he will know, or more than likely, we will call him. Now, let me tell you what's happened in the past with travelers, and it's happened in the past with other illnesses like tuberculosis and other illnesses. It gets very complicated. So you have a reportable illness. Zika's reportable. I go to the doctor. They test me. I come up positive for Zika, right? Now they're testing in the private labs. Private labs turn things around in 48, 72 hours, very fast. State lab may take up to a week, okay? So what happens when they turn that around real quickly, the private lab calls us because it's reportable, like Mr. Pedraza said. Private lab calls us. But the doctor hasn't looked at his fax machine or his email where the lab is telling him patient X has Zika. So the doctor hasn't caught up with it. So we're contacting the patient. Hey, by the way, patient, we just got the lab that you have Zika. And they're like, what? What? My doctor hasn't said nothing to me. And then we call the doctor's office like, well, what are you talking about? And then they start looking through all the lab results that they got. Oh, my God, wait, I didn't see it. That happens a lot. Just because they have a lot of patients. I mean, a doctor may see 80, 90 patients in a day. So it's, they didn't catch up on that. So a lot of times, you need to understand, it's not because they don't want you to know, it's that sometimes there's a lot of information. So we're always working with the doctors on that. We have put out alerts to all the doctors. They get alerts all the time. In fact, we're getting ready to put another one out today. Another alert's going to go out. All pregnant women need to be tested, first trimester, second trimester. If a person shows up with rash, low-grade fever, body aches, conjunctivitis, the redness of the eyes, test them for Zika. Test them. And it doesn't take, now the testing can, that one that goes to the labs, it's just a urine test. It's not like, a blood test is better, but you could do something as quick as a urine test in a little cup, send it off to the lab, and they can come back with results in 3 or 4 days. It's not that difficult. So it's very important. I'm going to finish up. Any questions, comments, ideas, suggestions, Mr. Ramirez? Anything that you could think that I might have left out or anything?
No, I think you covered everything pretty much, Eddie. Just want to stress, continue the spraying, continue preparing yourself, preparing your community. I know that a lot of times we're just the applicators. We're not the ones in charge of the programs, but it is our expert opinion and our expert on the field that matters to them. They rely on us informing them. Our administration rely on us informing them of what we see in the field. When we come to trainings, what we learn and what we hear that is affecting other communities. So we need to prepare our communities as well. Not to say, well, everything's fine and dandy, because it's not. Just like Eddie was saying, we're not waiting for the Zika anymore. We know Zika's in the region already, so it's here. So let's just be prepared and protect our communities. Thank you.
I just wanted to reiterate on the websites, cdc.gov, epa.gov, and texaszika.org. And also, if there's anybody that hasn't signed in yet, please sign in so that way we can get that information out to you for the Dropbox account.
Hold on, we got a question here.
Actually, I have a couple, actually. I know you said that there was 2 types. So there was the indoor, which is the Aedes aegypti, and the other one that you mentioned was...
Albopictus. And they're common here. The Aegypti, what they call just the Aedes mosquito, because Aedes is the main classifier, and then there's a subclassify. The Aedes mosquito, it's prevalent here. It's been here for many, many, many years. It's common.
And then my other question was, you mentioned right now that, we didn't want to spray constantly because then obviously the mosquitoes would become immune to some of it. And so my question is, you mentioned that, but are you all testing the areas that you are actually repeatedly spraying, and we're saying that they're
we're actually submitting a request to the Department of State Health Services. They just received some funding to do what they call resistance testing. And so they would bring a team of, entomologists and EPIs, that they would set up a a system and to see if it works or not, to see what's happening in that neighborhood or that area, if those mosquitoes in that area are resistant to the. I think we've used permethrin in the past, and there's some others that we've used if they're resistant to that type. That testing, we're asking for that. We've never done that in the past. It's never been offered. But now they're offering it because of all the situation we have, and we're asking for that assistance.
Okay, and then my last question is going to be, I know that we're saying women should be tested in their first and second trimester. Is this a cost that they're incurring? Is there something that we're working on to set up?
Currently, right now, the physicians have their instructions on how to handle testing. And help me with this one, Steve. If the testing goes to the state laboratory, it's no cost. The state of Texas is providing testing at no cost, but it's not open to the public. And remember, the physicians got to do everything and fill out the paperwork and send it to the state. And many physicians are doing that, okay? So now there's also private lab testing, and many times your insurance will pay for that, and that's something that the doctor and the client would determine. If the person has got insurance, they may look at the private lab testing because it's faster. And not that the state is slow, it's just the state's getting a lot of them. So it's just about capacity for them.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Yes, sir.
How can we get information or somebody for training as far as equipment and spraying and all that, record keeping?
Okay. What we'll do is we need to we'll work with you in the precinct on that. Please write that down, so that we can get one of our guys to go explain how to do that, because everything needs to be GPS. That's another thing I didn't mention. When you all, I don't want to put anybody in a bad situation, but you must GPS where you're spraying. Okay? And why do you want to GPS it? Because if he sprays today, he sprays the next day, he sprays the next day, the GPS will let you know when you did it, what time you did it, and where you covered it. That way it avoids you repeating too much on one site, but also it has backup. You could say, look, I went there. Because a nosotros, they always call us, no vinieron. Yo los hablé, no vinieron. You didn't come. I called you, you didn't come. I know you didn't come. I didn't see you. I want to see you. Well, first of all, we don't spray during the day. The reason we don't spray during the day is because right now you go outside, the wind is blowing 30 miles an hour. Okay? If the wind is more than 10 miles an hour, the humidity is more than 80%. If it just rained in the last 24 hours, you could go out and spray to get it. But it's just going to fly in the wind. You're going to be spending all that money and it's just flying in the wind. That's why we end up doing it at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, very early when the wind is calmer.
I'll ask the question because I don't know. Do the machines have an onboard computer?
No.
No?
No.
So basically your telephone with GPS coordinates and a log or something?
So what cities do, some cities, like we recently got our trucks GPSed, okay, so we do that, but we actually have handheld Garmin's or handheld, $89, $90, and then so the person goes out, they GPS, they hit start, and they hit end, and then they come back and dock it, and that data goes into it. That's how we track. Okay?
Is that a certain program?
No, it's just a regular GPS. Okay. If you use a GPS, it'll say start tracking, end tracking, and then it just gives you the route.
And pretty much also under reporting, EPA has a standard form. Not EPA, the state has a standard form. You can just get that form and fill it out. It tells you the units, gallons, what unit it is. It's pretty much just identifying. All they want to know is how many gallons are you spraying and what acreages are you covering.
Okay.
That's pretty much what that is through the state. As far as mapping, if you don't have GPS, if you guys don't have that, just get a regular map. Like our guys, we have GPS, but we still print it out as a map. And they'll highlight the area that each unit covered, and we have the city divided by quadrants.
Okay.
So we already know everything's filed by daily.
Okay.
Right. Now, the other thing, when Zika gets here, it's here, but when it starts really ramping up, and it's going to, one of the things that Chief Saldana brought up, your city managers and your emergency coordinators are going to talk about burn rates. They're going to talk about DARs. They're going to talk about all these fancy words that are FEMA words, okay? Because in the event, I'm not saying that it's going, in the event there is an emergency declared by the state of Texas, your community may be, big word, may be able to get sub-reimbursement for your response for this illness. But you're going to have all your documentation in place. Your daily DAR, daily activity report, your man hours, how many gallons that I use, how long did my pump run. There's paperwork for that. So you need to start thinking that way. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but let me tell you, it's a lot harder to get used to doing it than trying to make it up. ¿Qué hice la semana pasada? What did I do last month? And what did I do 2 weeks ago? Hard. Start thinking that way. Very important. Any last questions? I've already gone over time. Anything else? Chief, anything you could think of that I missed? Erica, Judge's Office, and anything you think I missed?
Just thank you all very much for responding and coming out, and if there's anything that we can help with, our office is always available, Mr. Olivares is always available.
Take this very seriously. This workshop that Mr. Olivares just put on, is just like I said, it's here. We already, our spring looks like going to be a very hot spring. The predictions, we're not going to have very much rain, but with the rain that we get, and afterwards, those are good signs of good development of mosquitoes. So you all need to work together in pushing out that information, education. Here we're coming spring, a lot of cities are having outdoor activities. Your health departments or whoever handles this, go out there, make presentations, give out handouts, vice versa. These are the good times to make it happen. You guys that are in code enforcement, encourage those citizens to cut their grass, make it happen. I know the city of FAR made a very big push when the first time this came out of cleaning people's yards and vice versa and pushing that out. It is very, very important that occurs. By all of us working together, we can make a difference. Okay? Don't sit back. Report this to your department heads, your city managers, your MCs. They can help you. Outreach to the school districts. The school district is another tool that can help you push out the information. Okay? Children, whether you believe it or not, will push that out to the parents. Those kids, they'll push it. You know, I come from the fire service. When we do the fire service training in October, a lot of that gets to the parents, and the parents practice it at home because of the kids. That's how come the kids are real important. Okay? Thank you.
Mr. Rivera, you have a question?
I would like for each of you to write down this date, March 22nd and March 23rd. It's 2 days. That is the date for the South Texas All Hazards Conference that we will be hosting at McAllen Convention Center together with the City of McAllen, Emergency Management, Texas Department of Emergency Management, and Department of State Health Services. It is free. Write it down. It's free. I have your email. I will be sending you each the link where you can register and get your folks to register. Chief, and register now. We have never seen the amount of people registered that we have right now. And Chief brought something over to me, and I was taking notes, and I was writing down what he said to me. We're going to bring a mini course on the equipment, GPS, talk about your vector spraying, about the immunity, those things that were discussed here. We're going to have a mini course. So we want the guys that are out there working to be at this conference. This is not for the director and the supervisors only. No, we want the guys that are out there working and the gals that are out there working. So it's a very friendly venue. I'll be sending it out March 22nd, 23rd. Like I said, it's free, so there's no excuse. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Reño. One last comment. Think about your employees. If you're going to have them out there spraying for mosquitoes, have them wear long sleeves. Have them put repellent on. If you have that construction worker that's out there working on a road, repellent, long sleeve, long pants. It's important. Take care of your own employees. Yes, Chief?
What's the recommended repellent to use?
Right now, anything with DEET on it, D-E-E-T, But there's some people who are allergic to it. And if you're allergic to it, Misty gave out in your flyer, she put out a pamphlet that you could use eucalyptus, you could use other methods that are going to be natural to help.
There's also English and Spanish information in the packets as well about DEEP and about information on our health.
So there's information in your packet in English and Spanish. But take care of your employees. Very important. Take care of your employees. Last second question. Going once. Going twice. On behalf of County Judge Garcia and the Commissioner's Court, thank you for coming. Have a good day.